Let's talk about the nutrition facts label, or NFL for short. Nutrition facts labels are found in processed foods. Processed foods being foods that were originally in their natural or whole food form, and something was done to it. Something was done to it to either make it tastier, to make it easier to ship, easier to have, and so that it won't spoil. So processing is something that happens in a lot of our food, and that could involve cutting up a food, juicing it. It could involve cooking a food or baking. It could be packaging. It could be packaging as in canning, freezing, drying. All of these are examples of processing of food. So let's take an apple, for example. So you take that apple and you cut it up, you make it into apple slices, you put it into an apple pie, and then you package that apple pie so that you could send it to a grocery store. Each of these are examples of processing of food, and this is where knowing how to read them would be important, because if you're grocery shopping, you can look at the label for things that have high nutrition and things that have low nutrition. You can look at things that have high calories, low calories. So it's very important to be able to read this. You can also use this if you're at a restaurant chain. So if you're going out to eat, you're going to a fast food restaurant. The reason being that if you have more than 20 restaurants underneath your chain, the FDA requires that you have nutrition information available. So if you are going out to eat, going on the website beforehand, asking for the nutrition information can make you a more informed consumer, customer, or shopper. So let's take this nutrition facts label as an example and break it down so that it's not as scary looking with all of the numbers and the percentages. So the first section talks about servings. Servings is really important because it teaches you about the portion sizes, and oftentimes the foods that were served have multiple portions. Like for example, in this example, you have 2 servings in the container. The next section are calories, and that's just a measure of energy. The next one are nutrients, and there will be certain nutrients that you want to promote and certain nutrients that you would like to limit. There are vitamins and minerals in this section. And in this section, it references and talks about this percentage of daily value, which is on the right-hand side of the nutrition facts label. So let's take an example. Let's say that I had this container that this label is talking about. I had the entire container. My question to you is, how many calories did I have? Well, if you looked at the nutrition information or facts label, you would maybe say 250 calories. But bear in mind that you also have to pay attention to the servings per container, which is 2. So if I had the entire container, I had 2 servings, which would make it go up to 500 calories. And when I'm saying kcal, this is another way of saying calories. So you would have to multiply everything by 2 if you had the entire container, because it had 2 servings. Going to this blank template, I wanted to focus on calories. And where are you getting those calories? So you might be getting those calories from these things called macronutrients. You might be getting it from fat. You might be getting it from protein. You might be getting it from carbs or carbohydrates. And there are certain types of these nutrients that are healthier, and there are certain nutrients that are less healthy. Examples of that could be that trans fats are something that we really want to avoid. Saturated fats are not as bad, but still something that we would like to limit. And then there are unsaturated fats. And on this example, you see poly and monounsaturated fats. Those are examples of unsaturated fats, just types of it. Protein is not really distinguished on the label, but it's something that can help with recovery, it can help with building muscle, it can help with growth, so it's also important. And then in terms of carbohydrates, added sugars are examples of things that are less healthy, less nutrition quality. On the other side, if foods have high fiber, that's something that speaks to it having high nutrition quality. So after all of this, you might also be wondering, what is the percent daily value? How do I use it? So if you had a percent daily value, what it's referencing is a 2,000 calorie diet, which is what the government feels is the average amount of calories that everyone needs. So you might need more than that, you might need less than that, but that's what it's referencing. Another way you can use the percent daily value is that if it has less than 5%, or if it has more than 20% of a daily value. If it has less than 5%, then it's a low source of a certain nutrient. If it's more than 20%, then it's a high source of a certain nutrient. And so finally, this ingredients section. So this ingredients section is really interesting because ingredients are actually listed in the order of most to least in a food. So let's say, for example, in this one, you have whole wheat flour, which tends to have more fiber than refined or white flour, and it has less sugar for the most part. So whole wheat flour is something that is actually a good sign because that means there's more whole wheat flour than any other ingredient inside of this food. Now the thing though with the ingredients is it can also identify hidden nutrients. And why I'm bringing that up is that it has something in it called hydrogenated oils. So hydrogenated oils are oils that contain trans fat. And remember, trans fat is an example of a very low quality fat. You want to avoid it and not have so much in your diet. So for hydrogenated oils, it creates these trans fats. It might say on the nutrition facts label that it has 0 grams, but that's because the companies are allowed to put 0 if it has less than half a gram per serving. So what does that mean? That means that they can manipulate the serving size. They could have things that have trace trans fats. So this is an example of using the ingredients to learn about hidden nutrients.